Hello and welcome to the world of NDE 4.0. I think this presentation will be a little bit different than the ones or a lot of the ones you saw here on the HOIS forum. I will try to go back a couple of steps and go kind of to the basics of NDE 4.0 and try to paint the big picture of NDE 4.0. Now I know at some point this could be kind of overwhelming, but NDE 4.0 for me and also for the co-author of this presentation, Singh, it's a journey. It's a journey each of us has to take stepwise. It's a journey we have to take, where we need collaboration between all of us. And it's a journey which will be different for each individual party starting their journey to the world of NDE 4.0. So this is kind of, it will be a lot. I will be showing you a very big picture, but take the steps which are important for you and then follow them. I think that's the main message before I even start getting into it. Now, how did I get to NDE 4.0? A lot of years ago, I studied physics, and here you can see kind of a younger self or a younger version of myself. That was back in 2004 when I finished studying physics, and back in those days, I really was into quantum computers and quantum optics. And this is an experiment where we actually proved for the first time the so-called entanglement between a single atom and a single photon. And if you look very sharp, you can see here in the back, that's where we have a single atom. Yeah, you cannot really see it, and you can see actually a lot of optical elements, but it worked. And we were able to prove that entanglement. And this experiment, it will be at some point, it will be the basis for a communication channel between two different quantum computers, because that's entirely what you need. You need to have a quantum computer with a photon, then going to another one, and then again having a quantum computer. Now, that was back in 2004, and I guess all of you know that quantum computers are slowly becoming reality, but still are quite a way from really getting into industrial application, but they are getting there. But back in those days, that wasn't really, I wanted to do something more with an application I had in hand. So that's how I got into NDE. And now another version of myself, now from 2016. And that was during an inspection of large rotor forgings for gas turbines or for steam turbines. And during that time, we developed SAFT, synthetic aperture focusing technique, for the application on those rotor forgings. That project, actually, I have to say, was really successful. It's now implemented at 3 different forging suppliers around the globe, and they're using it for every single inspection, bringing, if you know forgings, the sensitivity down from about 1 millimeter KSR in those huge forgings to about 0.3 millimeters. But what is more NDE 4.0 related, actually, back in those days, we also started to work, to take all of the results we got from all of those automated inspections and put all of those results into a database and starting to do a statistical analysis with that. And the result, is we gave those statistically analyzed results to our fractal mechanics colleagues, and they were able to say, looking at those numbers, we can actually allow way longer lifetime of our gas turbines. And the business case, that was one of the easiest business cases I saw in my lifetime. And it's still one of the biggest business cases of the company we did it for. And that was kind of what opened my eyes, that by taking results of NDE, using a bit of statistics, perhaps even using some AI or something like that, all of those results will give a big benefit for our customers to improve their production or their design. That was my path into NDE 4.0. Now, what's NDE? We all know it, but if we look really into it, really from the start of humans producing something, humans also always wanted to know, is there something in the component I produced which could lead at some point to a failure? And we used our human senses to make a prediction. Then we got some analog tools like X-ray or ultrasonics, which allowed us a view into the components. Then we went from analog to digital. That's now, in my eyes, NDE 3.0. And with digital, yeah, we had all of this recording all of the data, making the data format we record the data in uniform. With digital, what we can do is we can store everything on the same hard drive. No matter whether it's music, whether it's a movie, whether it's the result of an X-ray inspection or of an automated UT inspection, we can store all of it on the same hard drive. That's really what made digital so easy. And then also the possibility of doing backups and using some software to work on that data. And that already brings us to a differentiation, which in my eyes is really critical to understand the step from 3.0 to 4.0. And that's the differentiation between digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. Now, while digitization is just converting some analog information to some digital information, so creating a CD, which is a digital audio disk, or by taking a sheet of paper and creating a JPEG out of it. That's digitization. Now, digitalization, this is really about processes to make our lives easier. Processes on digital data for sure. So that already starts with very simple tools. Like you could imagine a search and replace, that's a digitalization tool. We could also say, yeah, an SAP ERP system, an SAP R3 system, that's also a digitalization solution. Or if we think about, let's say, an NDE workflow system, that's a digitalization solution. Now, both digitization and digitalization is something you can buy kind of from one company. You can go to somebody and say, I want to have this functionality. And that's now the differentiation to digital transformation. Now we are really talking about a transformation. We're talking about creating a new ecosystem. It's a little bit hard to understand the concept because there's not really a good success story out there up to the moment. But what the idea is that with the digital transformation, that every digital device can talk to every other digital device, can use every digital software or any digitalization solution we want to have, all integrated into one single ecosystem. Now you can imagine such a digital transformation. That is nothing you can buy from a manufacturer. And if one manufacturer tells you you can buy digital transformation from us, and you do not have to go to somebody else, they have to be lying. Because then what they are selling you is actually another digitalization solution. Now, the example for a digital transformation which happened over the last couple of years is one we all know, and that's our cell phones. With the creation of cell phones and with the creation of that open architecture, especially if we look into Android, then yeah, we have all kinds of different apps we can install. Those apps can talk to each other. Those apps can talk to sensors. We can attach different sensors to it. So that's kind of really the start of the idea of digital transformation. Now, for sure, you can drive this digital transformation way further than what a cell phone can currently do. And perhaps to highlight, for a digital transformation, you do not need a cell phone. Cell phone is just one example. So this describes a little bit the process or the development from Industry 1.0, or actually from handcraft to Industry 4.0, and from human perception to NDE 4.0. With Industry 4.0 and NDE 4.0 growing together. Now, question might be coming up. So why? Why are humans going through those industrial revolutions? Why are we doing all of this? What do we want to achieve? And it's getting pretty clear if we look on to, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because if we think about it, before the first industrial revolution, for the average person, life wasn't really that good. People were really looking for a healthy life, or for health, for healthy food, for water you can drink, for having some clothes so that you do not freeze. So it was really about physiological needs. And then came the first revolution. Now, first revolution, what it brought was mainly textile industry. But it brought a lot of jobs to a lot of people. And now, in the beginning, life wasn't really getting better, but after some time and building some unions and all of that, people were going up one step, because now it was more about, your basic health, your basic having food and water and clothes. That was something you could afford as an average person. You could also suddenly afford not just one set of clothes, but 2 or 3 or 4 of them. So the focus shifted a little bit to what humans were really looking for. With the second revolution, we're now getting more into, besides having a good job, besides having a job which can have, where you can afford all the food and all the water you want to have, is now you want to have time for your family. You want to have time for friends. So perhaps you do not want to work anymore 80 hours a week, but more something like 40. But that's kind of the second revolution. Third revolution, now that's the one we all now know out of our hearts. Who has the bigger car? Who has the bigger boat? Who has the bigger salary? This is all about self-esteem, confidence, achievements. And now, with the fourth revolution, we are getting into self-actualization. We're giving the computer the tasks the computer is good at, and that is all those repetitive tasks, and giving the human what the human is good at, and that is solving problems, that is being spontaneous, that's being creative. This is kind of, in my eyes, why we are striving towards a higher and higher and higher automation level. Okay, now, what is the fourth revolution? And I spoke with a lot of people about what is the fourth revolution. And a lot of people tell me, oh, that's the use of artificial intelligence for doing this and this. Yes, it is an important step. I talk to other people and they are telling me, oh, it's augmented reality. With those fancy goggles, I can stay down here and something else is doing my work up there. Yes, that's also part of it. Some other people might be saying, oh, it's Yeah, it's blockchains. And they are all correct, but it's all small parts actually to the big puzzle. Because if we look into it and look back into those three words, digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation, using an AI application, it's a good tool. It's a tool which was really helpful to all of us. But it's digitalization. Where all of this is really heading towards, that's digital transformation. And that's the integration of all the different tools we have into kind of one solution. Having augmented reality, having AI, having IoT, having digital twins, all of it to help us to improve. And that's the step from the ecosystem to the ecosystem, from the proprietary system to working together. Now, if we think about NDE, yeah, NDE has kind of already an ecosystem. And if we think about what NDE is about, NDE is always about the asset we want to inspect, for example, an airplane. And then we have an OEM, which produces that asset. We have some owner-operator operating it. We have an inspector. We have some NDE OEMs producing all the equipment. We have some universities and R&D centers. We have regulatory bodies writing some standards. We have inspection service providers. We have inspector training schools, certification bodies, and so on, and many more. Now, up to the moment, this ecosystem was mainly an ecosystem which met due to some customer relationships or at some exhibitions or some conferences. But that's a little bit going to change, and it's becoming more and more participants in that ecosystem. And how is it going to change? Now, if we think about an asset we are producing, that could perhaps be, let's say, a pipeline. We have somebody who, or let's stick with a gas turbine because that's what I know best. We have the idea for a new gas turbine. Then that gas turbine is designed. You procure at some supply chain, some raw material, produce the individual components, do some inspection at the production, and then you assemble that gas turbine. You sell it to somebody who is owning it and operating it. At some point, we have to do some service inspections, and at some point, we'll reach some end of life. So what we can already see is that within this value chain, we already have different stakeholders in the ecosystem, which kind of are, communicating or interacting with each other. Now, the idea of the digital transformation, or NDE 4.0, is kind of, not only taking all those verbal communications, but taking the data, the information. And we get information from a lot of different steps. We get information from a lot of sensors, which are installed in some production environment or in some asset which is operated. And we're getting information from all the NDE inspections we are gaining along the life cycle. Now, for sure, what we can do, we can take the NDE data we have gained, we can process it through some AI, improve the results with the AI, and have a kind of a little feedback loop back to our production inspection or our service inspection. But we could also take this one step further. For example, by taking the data from our production inspection and having a feedback loop all the way back to design. Or taking the data from service inspection and having a feedback back to operation. This could be kind of like some holistic predictive maintenance, including structural health monitoring, condition monitoring, and NDE, all kind of different information sources to really do a accurate predictive maintenance. You could even think about, okay, having a feedback loop all the way from our inspections all the way back to the design. And it's not only one feedback loop we have within our ecosystem. For example, we also not only one value chain, we have multiple value chains within our ecosystem. For example, we have one for the production of NDE equipment. Again, we have an idea for some, let's say, an ultrasonic instrument. We design it, we have some supply chain, we assemble that instrument. That instrument is being used by some inspector, and at some point we have to go through recalibration purposes. And at some point we reach an end of life. Again, we can have kind of some small feedback loops, but we could also use the data from all the actual inspections to improve that design. Or we could use the data from the actual inspections to kind of do a predictive recalibration. So not anymore sending my instrument once a year back to the manufacturer, but only sending it in if the instrument signals me, I need to go back because I have found something not going correctly with myself. Third value chain, this is now kind of the inspector's personal value chain. Let's say you want to become an inspector. You have the idea, okay, I want to be an inspector. You go through training, through qualification and certification. You gain experience, you go through a recertification. And at some point, yeah, you have to think about succession. But in between, yes, again, we can use a lot of feedback loops. We can use actually the data from the actual inspections to actually tailor the training needs of that person, to tailor the qualification of that person, to tailor the recertification, to have something like a predictive recertification scheme. So that if you have somebody, because humans are different, and currently if I look onto the training and certification we have in NDE, yeah, we're doing the same training for everybody. But there is one person, yeah, perhaps he doesn't need 3 weeks, he needs 6 weeks of training before getting to really a good certification. With other persons, yeah, who already know all of it, but still have to go to school for 3 weeks. What's really the reason for that, besides training institutes making money? So this is really where I see this digital transformation coming into play. Having data and information flow from one company to another to help us achieve different goals. And kind of all of those feedback loops, and this is, yeah, it's already a lot of them, but it's not all of them. And kind of all of them have a couple of key elements. We have an IoT for collecting all of that data, for create or for making out of data information. We have digital twins to process all of that data. Within a digital twin, I can have also a quantum computer. I can also have an AI implementation, some deep learning or something else. Out of that, I'm creating knowledge by visualizing the data. For example, by some augmented reality. And then I have a feedback, creating some action, and then going back to the physical life. So this is, for me, the core element for all of those loops we have seen. This is a holistic cyber-physical loop. Now, I know what I have shown, that's a lot. And don't panic. You don't have to do everything. Actually, you shouldn't be doing everything, because that would just be way too much. Take it slow. Take the steps which have the low-hanging fruits. And then go from there stepwise towards, yeah, a higher and higher digital transformation level. And because we cannot do this just for us, we created some, yeah, groups within the NDE or within the NDE community. One within the IC NDT, one within the EF NDT, and we Yes, right here in the middle, you can all see Martin Wall sitting here. This was one of our meetings where we met very regularly during this Corona crisis, and I'm really eager to meet everybody in person because, yeah, the creation of those groups and the start of Corona kind of was at the same time. Another good point for getting forward with this topic is the next international conference on NDE 4.0. We already had this year in spring, we had a virtual conference on NDE 4.0, which was a good initial conference for exchange of some of the topics in regards to NDE 4.0. But what I think this topic really needs is for all of us to really get together and really start working on it together to start this journey, this common journey. And therefore, I really hope that this can now really happen, as we have now a new date for that conference. That's October 24 to 26, 2022 in Berlin in Germany. The call for papers is already open. I think we have already received about 20 papers, so that's okay. But we are waiting for more. We really want to have 3 good days of presentations and a lot of discussions. If you want more information, there are already 3, or I think it's by now actually 4 special issues of journals on NDE 4.0. The first one was from Materials Evaluation, the second one from NDE, and the third, and actually also the fourth one, from the Journal of NDE. We've also worked on 2 books. The Handbook of NDE 4.0, that's already, or the individual chapters of that book can already be purchased online. The book will most likely be published somewhere at the end of January. But I must say the name Handbook could also be a little bit misleading because this handbook will have about 2,000 pages. So it's in my eyes, it's more a backpack book than a handbook. And if you look online for how much that book will be, I think most of it will not be really buying it. It will be about £1,000 or €1,000, something in that range. Now, the second book, which is actually already released and available, that one is a lot more affordable. And it's called The World of NDE 4.0. And it's a book which is written by myself and by Rippy. And it's really more to help you get started on your journey to the world of NDE 4.0. To give you kind of something so that you can, get yourself into, what could I be doing for my company? How could I get forward with the whole topic of NDE 4.0? And perhaps also thinking a little bit out of the box and not just thinking, oh, because everybody is now talking about one topic, I also have to do this one topic. Because it will really be the variety of different topics which will finally make the success for NDE 4.0. Another information source is the NDE 4.0 YouTube channel, which became actually an official YouTube partner about a week ago. We have now about 1,500 subscribers, which in my eyes is pretty good for a channel which is really dedicated to NDE. And I have already invited a lot of different guests. You can see here kind of some of them. And I hope that some of you, if you are interested, just send me an email and we will find a good topic for you to speak about and for us to discuss about. And therefore, thank you for paying attention. Thank you for listening to my big picture of the world of NDE 4.0. And please remember, don't panic. Take it stepwise. It can be quite overwhelming, but if you take it on and perhaps get some help from some outsider, then that's a topic which will do a lot for you, for your company, and also for your customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johannes. Very comprehensive and interesting overview about all the different essences of NDE 4.0. The floor is open for questions. Feel free to add questions to the chat, and I'll bring those up with Johannes, or raise a hand print if you'd like to make a question. Question here from Peter Loftus. How do we convince people in CM, structural health monitoring, IV, HM, etc., that NDT 4.0 is about what they do?
I don't know how to convince them. But for me, it's I think with NDE 4.0 we are allies, because we have different, or NDE is a different information source, or classic NDE is a different information source than sensors. And in my eyes, we need both of it to really come to a good information source to provide our customers the information they need to really get to a predictive maintenance or to a probabilistic lifing or whatever. I think one cannot do it without the other. I think we just need both. And I think it's both communities who need to understand that they cannot live without the other.
Pete, did you want to ask anything more about that particular topic or question?
I guess we could spend a long time chatting about that. so maybe not, but I think that's a challenge for us, isn't it? To how to bring all of those communities together.
Yeah, it's anyway the big challenge of NDE or of Industry 4.0, because it's bringing so many communities together. And if I look into conferences, there is a conference on digital twins, which is not talking about AI and not talking about IoT. There's a conference on IoT, which is not talking about digital twins and not talking about AI. And then you have an AI conference and they are not talking about digital twins or. So I could spend a whole day doing examples like this, and it's very human. Human like to think in boxes.
True. Yeah, we just need a bigger box.
Yeah, for digital transformation to really work, we have to really make that box a lot bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Johannes. A question now from Kimberly Hayes in Houston. How successful do you think we are with data standardization? What can we do to increase the migration?
Kim, I think we have spoken about this topic for some times before, but it's always the same. This is it's one of the really critical things we have to make possible. We have some activities going on which can help. This is, for example, there is the DICONDI standard, which could help a lot, but I can also see that it has at some point still some weak places. But if we look onto the medical side, on the medical side, it worked. Every doctor is by now working with DICOM, and that's totally normal for them. So DICONDI could be one way. We are also currently working on OPCUA as a standard communication platform with all the necessary semantic interoperability it needs to do something like this. I'm pretty sure we will also be working at some point on some Gaia X implementation for NDE or all those different Industry 4.0 solutions, so that we really can exchange our information with industry. But I also see that none of those goals is really something we can achieve within the next 1 or 2 years. It's all projects which take 5 years, 10 years, something like that. But if we do not start working on it, we will never make it happen. And I think the closest we can get to kind of a common data format, in my eyes, it's still DICONDI. But and I heard some other proposals. And my problem with those proposals is, yeah, this is all the work people have put into DICONDI. We would kind of have to repeat for the other formats. So that's why I like DICONDI. But yes, it is a big challenge. And it's not a challenge we can solve overnight, but it's a challenge we can solve if we work together. But I think the biggest point is that in a lot of industries, a lot of companies are thinking that proprietary data formats is helping them retaining their customers. But in my eyes, this what was a business benefit in the past, keeping your data format closed so that the customer has to come back to you, will in a couple of years, once the first 2 or 3 companies started to open up their data formats, started to open up everything, all the interfaces and all of that. I think once first companies have started, customers will be doing contracts only with those companies because the customers want their data. They don't want the data to be enclosed in some proprietary data format. Which, if we look into it, if company X decides, oh, I do not want to do that product in the future anymore, then yes, we will not have actually an up-to-date computer anymore to read that data, which is also a big issue for me. So I think we do not have any other choice than to work on it. And there will be companies deciding, yes, we want to go forward, we want to follow this path. And for sure, there will be companies which will say, we want to keep business as usual. My prediction is that the ones who decide we want to do business like usual, somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years, they might be going out of business.
Thanks, Johannes. 2 more questions. One quite a simple one to answer from Niall Dolly. Is the world of NDE 4.0 available for purchase in soft copy? Seeing that we're talking about digitalization and NDE 4.0, it only seems fitting that it comes in a soft copy.
It's, I guess with soft copy, you mean an electronic version?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, currently there is no electronic version because we thought about doing a Kindle version of it, but we have put a lot of pictures inside of the book. And pictures do not really that good on Kindle. Therefore, we decided not to go that route. But so currently there is just our soft cover book. And let's see. I do not have a copy here, unfortunately. Where do I have it? Yeah, here we go. So that's the book you can buy on Amazon. But we are currently in the process with ASNT. And ASNT will be publishing our book in the future. And they will not only do the softcover version, they will also doing an electronic version of that book. But it will not be a Kindle book. It will be kind of a PDF with restricted printing rights or whatever. I don't know how they do it exactly, but there will be somewhere March, April next year, there will be also a electronic version available by ASNT.
Great, thank you, Johannes. Last question, I think, when time to stop, from Sika Terpstra from Shell. Do the handbooks contain guidance for analysing work processes and how to digitalize them?
The handbook, perhaps, now what I have to say, the handbook is really, it's a collection of, I think, 50 different chapters, which are written by different authors. So each individual chapter is written by different authors, and it's not one storyline going through that book. So just have a look online on the available chapters of the Handbook of NDE 4.0, and you can see if there is one chapter which really goes in the direction you're looking for. I would think that the World of NDE 4.0 book is better suited for your need. And there is another publication we're currently working on, because we're currently working on a guideline how to create, a roadmap for NDE 4.0. And that's mostly done by Ramon Fernandez Orozco from Mexico. But I would think it's still 2, 3, 4 months away from being publishable.
Great. Just final sort of question. What's the overlap or difference between digitalization and digitalization, digital transformation of NDE and NDE 4.0? Are they the same thing, or are there some differences and overlaps?
Yeah, there is. Now, digitization, that's clearly NDE 3.0. Digital transformation, that's clearly NDE 4.0. But digitalization, I would think digitalization marks the road between 3.0 and 4.0. I hope that's an answer kind of satisfying. It's a little bit hard to really describe it better. I have actually done a paper which is published in the Handbook of NDE, or a chapter which is published in a Handbook of NDE 4.0, really going in detail on the differentiation between digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. And I also tried to do a lot of different examples for digitalization and digital transformation to kind of give you a better view onto what this could mean.